The WWE Draft set up this King and Queen of the Ring tournament, and we didn't even realize it. Also, we're going to look at tonight on Tap Out Talk the WWE's strategy to hide contenders that are actually competing in the King and the Queen of the Ring tournaments. They're hiding them right in front of us. And also, we're going to get into, now that the brackets are revealed fully, some predictions officially here. I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype Ballard, back at it again. Let's get into round one of the Smackdown King and Queen of the Ring tournaments. Let's get in. First up, we're going to get into the final brackets. We got the men's bracket here on the Smackdown side. On Raw, we did have Gunther, Dragunov, and Uso all winning their matches. And we will get Mysterio and Kofi Kingston in a live house show for another King of the Ring round one matchup. And we're going to do the same thing over on SmackDown with LA Knight and Santos Escobar. But wait, there's more. We're also on the female side going to get Tiffany Stratton versus Michin. Why would the WWE hide some of these wrestlers on their live events? One, to draw crowds in, that's great. Make them feel special. But not necessarily in the event of Kofi and Mysterio, which I do believe that Kofi could advance. However, we do have LA Knight being hidden kind of in a live event. Yeah. And you got Tiffany Stratton also being hidden on a live house show with her match with Michin. So ultimately, you got two hot, young, and up-and-coming stars on SmackDown being hidden in the background because why? They're not going to win this tournament. I'll call it right now. LA Knight, Tiffany Stratton do not win King of the Ring, but that's a good thing because that means there's probably bigger plans for them in the possible future. I would even go as far as to say maybe even Money in the Bank. Let's get into our first matchup. Tonight on SmackDown, we got the Queen of the Ring. Match one, we got Nia Jax taking on Naomi. And right away, you know, this is the battle of the two ladies that just recently returned to the WWE, making their returns. And you got to ask yourself, who does the WWE value more in this situation? Both members of the Samoan Dynasty family, one by blood, one by marriage. But ultimately, we are going to get them just getting into the ring right at it, right away with some strikes. And then Naomi cuts Nia off with a standing avalanche. We get a corner avalanche from Nia. And then another one. Nia looks off. She misses a corner kick. Naomi lands some legs as we get a really, really interesting QR code hit right in the middle of the screen. And it does lead to a video I'll link up here. But ultimately, fast forward, we do get a weak shove from Nia. And then we get Naomi that sells a death slam to herself in the apron. Ultimately then, we go to commercial. We come back and Nia is still very much in control of this matchup. Naomi tries to fight her back and she lands a big Samoan-like headbutt. Have you guys noticed that Nia Jax has got a lot of very Samoan Dynasty type moves? The headbutt, etc. Even the avalanche is shades of the late great Yokozuna. And I can't help but think this is not just done by coincidence. There's little seeds that are now being planted in our brains. Ultimately, Nia is immobile. Naomi goes up with Nia, and Nia hits more headbutts, and she tries a power bomb, but Naomi hits the avalanche hurricanrana, but again, only a 1 and a 2. Super kick from Naomi, and then another one, and Nia counters with a third power bomb, a running leg drop, and Nia then follows it up with a win at the 10-minute and 6-second mark. So ultimately, we do get Nia Jax advancing in this tournament to take on the winner of Jade Cargill and her opponent later on this evening. We're going to go ahead and we get to the first SmackDown King of the Ring qualifier round one tournament match. Baron Corbin versus Carmelo Hayes. They did something with a backstage segment right before this matchup, and I loved what the WWE did. They actually had a run-in between Corbin and Hayes, And Corbin giving an interview talking about how he's back on SmackDown after, he was so confused with being happy and being sad, etc. Maybe a new persona could be Confused Corbin. Maybe that's what we should call him from now on. So Confused Corbin goes at it, and Carmelo Hayes walks in and he says, congratulations on being drafted back to SmackDown. However, we find out that's just not the case, and he goes, oh, that's right, I was drafted. So I like that the WWE used the draft to further a King of the Ring story here. And I like the fact that they just kind of subtly nod at that, like, yes, this TV is important, and to recap week to week. And I think that's just great storytelling. So we do get the matchup with these two guys. Corbin avoids a right hand immediately. Hayes is looking to do a hit and run on Corbin and then drop kicks the knee. Classic Hayes. Ultimately, Hayes flips out of a back suplex that Corbin attempts, catches him with a cross-legged Michinoku driver. Hayes rolls out of the ring and we go to a commercial. We come back, we have Corbin looking for a superplex. Hayes gets free of that. He hits a springboard clothesline. We get a face buster from Hayes, and then he avoids the deep six. Ultimately, we do get a little bit of a Death Valley driver, and then ultimately get a 1 and a 2. Flying codebreaker from Hayes, a running knee, and then ultimately we get Hayes into the corner, and he follows with a clothesline. We get the Black Crush, a suplex into a cutter from Corbin, a 1 and a 2. Hayes counters at the end of days with a small package for the 1, the 2, and the 3. Carmelo, Mello. Hayes wins at 6 minutes and 30-second mark. It was the right call here. Carmelo Hayes is going to advance in the men's division of the King of the Ring. Moving on from round 1. And I feel like that was the right choice. You got to give him a very opponent that can take a pin. Carmelo's going to get built up. Not a bad quick match. It didn't overstay its welcome. Mello, I truly believe, starts to, just have great skill sets with anybody in his ring. So we're going to get to our third SmackDown match. We're going to ultimately get to, again, another Queen of the Ring round 1 match where we get Jade Cargill with Piper Niven featuring Chelsea Green as well as manager. They tie up immediately, and we ultimately get a power display of Jade Cargill in this tournament, much like she did at Royal Rumble with Nia Jax. We may get that in the future again with Nia advancing, but ultimately the winner of this match will meet Nia, and we do get a very powerful match from Jade Cargill. There was a couple of moments in the match that I did enjoy. Jade going for the jaded early in the match on Piper, and then finally getting to follow up with it and actually hit that move. It gave me a little bit of a WrestleMania 3 Andre the Giant Hulk Hogan vibe when Hogan went for that initial slam, but it failed and the Giant landed on top of him. So I did kind of like this setup, planting again those little psychological seeds in our fans' heads. Jade hits the rope, she ducks a clothesline and does a drop from Piper and a shoulder block, a back elbow from Piper, but Jade avoids a slam and hits the super kick. Piper catches a charging Jade Cargill, slams her, and then hits a senton for a 1 and a 2. We get some rope choking, Piper to set up Chelsea with a cheap shot from the outside, and then kind of shaking it off with her hand. We get a scoop slam from Piper Niven, and that was basically, ultimately, at this point, Jade fires up, hits some elbows, hits the protobomb for a 2 count, a stinger splash from Jade, and then another one, and she hits Chelsea for good measure. Piper avoids the Jaded, lands a headbutt, and then hits the corner avalanche. She hits the cannonball. I love when wrestlers like KO and Piper Niven go for the cannonball, so it was just a fun move to see there. Ultimately, then, Jade pulls her, Piper goes up, she pulls her down from the ropes, she hits the pump kick, Jaded hits and follows for the 1, the 2, and the 3. Jade Cargill remains undefeated and moves on at the 5-minute 15-second mark in the Queen of the Ring tournament. And if you guys want to move on, we'll do that. Go ahead and hit the like button for me. It helps me, but ultimately, it helps your algorithm just to see more wrestling. So if you like wrestling, hit like. It's easy enough. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Ultimately, if you're back again, thank you so much. I love wrestling. I love talking about it. Let's talk about it in the comments below. Moving on, we get the King and Queen of the Ring moving ahead, and we get our 4th match of the night. we get the Queen of the Ring, Bianca Belair, versus Candice LeRae with Indy Hartwell in her corner. Belair actually comes out as Jade is leaving from her last match. And they do a little Bessie high five, give each other some praise. And I immediately said, oh my gosh, we're getting the Mega Powers angle, right? We're getting the two, NXT Women Tag Team Champions, buddies and friends. And I love the fact that the Tag Team Championships are getting featured so much with Jade and Bianca. So, and a little foreshadowing that it could get awkward between these two possibly. Belair overpowers Candice early and runs into a kick, and Candice sends Belair out of the ring. Candice tries a hurricane rod to the floor, but Belair catches her and swings her into the barricade. Indy with another cheap shot, almost like Chelsea Green in the earlier match, to the leg of Belair. And Belair basically starts selling her leg and the injury to her knee. She suplexes Candice in the ring. There's corner punches from Belair, but Candice slips free. Belair backflips over. She tweaks her knee even more. And then we get a drop kick to the bad knee. And then more leg work by Candice LeRae, doing the technical things she knows how to do. Now, we get Belair that kicks her off and hits a fallaway slam. Candice slips away with a suplex, a chop block, a senton. And then Belair catches Candice and hits the kiss of death. All this in just 2 minutes, 55 seconds. So this is almost like a WWE speed match under 3 minutes. But ultimately, we do get Bianca Belair moving on in this tournament. And she will take on the winner of Michin and Tiffany Stratton at the results of that live show. Ultimately, I will give my predictions on who I think is going to win this Queen of the Ring tournament for this side of the bracket and who will win it overall. So stay tuned for the final thoughts at the end. Let's go moving ahead in that section. We do get a segment from Solo Sikoa with the Wise Man saying that he is now in charge and Roman lost our championship, and kind of foreshadowing a very trapped and scared Paul Heyman, and you can just feel the tensions rising. But before that, we got business to take care of with Tama Tonga in action with Solo, Paul Heyman, and Tonga Loa in their corner, with Angelo Dawkins replacing with Bobby Lashley in this matchup with Montez Ford in his corner. So very, very smart to take Bobby Lashley out of the tournament and save Tama Tonga in order to get the victory here. Tonga, this isn't really just kind of a quick squash match. Again, less than 3 minutes. Speed-like mentality. Tonga immediately attacks Dawkins in the corner, hits a corner clothesline, more strikes from Tonga. Dawkins avoids it. Dawkins hits punches. Corner offense. We get a shoulder block. Sola hops on the apron and Dawkins punches him down. Ford dives onto Loa and Soa. And then we get a sky high to Tonga in the ring. And Dawkins hits a near fall. But basically, Loa then hits Ford. And Sola wipes him out with a Samoan spike. And Tonga hits a running flatliner for the win. Again, at the 2-minute mark. Ultimately, we do get a next advancement in the men's tournament. And speaking of advancement, we're going to advance to the 6th match of the night. And what a main event for Smackdown. We got 2 former world champions going at it. And 2 guys that frankly want to win King of the Ring because it is not on their resume for either one of them. Randy Orton really makes this point in a backstage interview, even really foreshadowing a little bit of what's going to happen in this King of the Ring tournament. So ultimately, then we do get the 2 going in the ring matching up. And we did find out earlier tonight that Logan Paul will be the next challenger for Cody Rhodes, the fighting champion. So it makes you wonder if truly AJ Styles could advance. We then get Randy Orton on the other side of it, looking to just be the ultimate Grand Slam, winning everything in the WWE has ever had to offer. But ultimately, we do get the start. We get some Randy clotheslines right away. We get a 10-punch in the corner. And then AJ with a kick from a sliding forearm. We move ahead. We get, ultimately, Randy sets up for a hanging DDT from the barricade. But AJ fights free and then jumps to the announce table. And he tries a phenomenal forearm and catches him with a back suplex onto the apron. And then one onto the announce table. The crowd's chants, we want another. Randy is getting ready, and so he delivers, and then he takes a bow to the crowd, just playing into it. I really like this move. ultimately, we do get back in the ring with AJ and the Snake Eyes. We get a drop kick to the leg, so we get a lot of back and forth action as you would expect from these two. Fast forward a little bit more in the matchup, we get an uppercut from Randy that sends AJ back to the apron. AJ then catches Randy coming in, hits a dragon screw. So we get a little bit of commercial breaks in between some of this action. And ultimately, we then get Randy as he sets up at the end for the RKO, but AJ blocks it and then hits the phenomenal forearm, which connects to Randy to grab the ropes and then break the pinfall overall that would have happened for AJ. But AJ now calls for the Styles Clash. It never works, guys. It never works in the WWE. Go back to TNA for that. But ultimately, Randy counters with the RKO out of nowhere. And that'll do it. 1, 2, and 3. 17-minute mark on this matchup. And the main event of SmackDown goes off the air and closes as Randy Orton advances in the King of the Ring tournament. Let's get into our final thoughts. First, I want to say this was an overall good match. It was fun. I enjoyed the back and forth, and I really did have me wondering at some points which route they would go, and that's really what we want to see. Let's get into our final thoughts. And here we go. Our final thoughts here. I feel like we're now at the end of week 1 of the King and the Queen of the Rings tournament. And I truly believe like the WWE's getting it right and they're making this must-see programming for myself. I don't know about you guys, but I really feel like I do need to watch this and I want to know what's going on. And it's going to lead us right into the King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view in the PLE. WWE, a couple of final thoughts here. WWE is tragically hiding Tiffany Stratton and LA Knight in the house shows. Again, I feel like they're more Money in the Bank bound than King and Queen of the Ring bound. Time will tell. But I do feel like they are strategically keeping them off the first round on TV for that very reason. So that eliminates them from my predictions. I do believe in my predictions that it will tie into the WWE draft. So for example, WWE draft SmackDown went with a very heavy women's focused draft, which makes me believe that the women's Queen of the Ring will come from SmackDown itself. Ultimately, if you want a prediction, now that I see these brackets, I believe that we could get Jade Cargill versus Bianca Belair in the semifinals. And I do believe that that was set up a little bit tonight with Bianca Belair showing that they're friends and showing that it would probably be a friendly competition between those two, with planting seeds of doubt for a future matchup. But I do believe that they saved Bianca here by actually giving her a little bit of a knee issue going on into this semifinal route and I feel like that'll be aggravated even more in her next matchup with Tiffany Stratton. So then, I believe that'll give an easy way for Jade to get past Bianca when Bianca's not at her best, giving Jade the opportunity to go into the finals at Queen of the Ring. And I do believe Jade will beat whoever comes out on the Raw side of the Queen of the Ring tournament. I can see the WWE going a couple routes with the Raw side. I could see them going with Io Sky, so Jade could beat a credible champion at Queen of the Ring. Or I could see them going with a younger star that they want to have a good run, like Lyra Valkyrie even. So I do believe that Jade Cargill will be your Queen of the Ring. Let's talk about the men's King of the Ring. I do believe that will most likely be seen by a Raw competitor in this matchup. And I do believe that Randy Orton will get to the finals in here. And a case could be made for Randy Orton to win a King of the Ring. And it would bring validity back to this tournament in a good way. And it would also give Randy Orton a future stake at Cody Rhodes, possibly even at SummerSlam. So I'm not going to deny that SmackDown really could take this. However, I do believe the likes of an Ilya Dragunov or even Gunther could meet up in the semifinals, with possibly Gunther taking that and then taking his crown at King of the Ring. But then again, I do believe it'll be Gunther and Randy at the King of the Ring PLE. So guys, those are my final thoughts, predictions, and let me know what yours are in the comments down below now that we know the bracket. And I'm going to go ahead and head out. It's not see you later. It's not goodbye. It's just game over.